public comment, where any member of the public may address the commission on any matter not scheduled before them on the agenda. Total time is 15 minutes. Do we have any comment slips?
I don't have any speaker slips.
Anyone rise to the floor, and we will close the floor to public comment. Notices. On Friday, August 15th at 3 p.m., the Airport Commission Secretary duly posted the agenda on the bulletin board of the Airport Administration that the Ground Transportation Subcommittee met on Tuesday, July 22nd in the Airport Administration Building, Firestone Road, Santa Barbara, and that the Noise Abatement Committee will meet on Wednesday, September 24th in the Airport Administration Building, 601 Firestone Road. Which brings us to the consent calendar. Do we have any items to remove from the consent calendar? Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Accepted.
Second.
The calendar, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The consent calendar is then approved. Item number 10. Airport door-to-door shuttle service. It has been recommended that the Commission approve and authorize the Airport Director to execute a month-to-month permit with Airport Connection Incorporated, a California corporation doing business as Roadrunner Shuttle and Limousine Service, for operation of a door-to-door shuttle service, including passenger pickup and drop-off at 2 designated parking spaces at the Santa Barbara Airport at a charge of $300 a month.
And Tracy Lincoln will be giving the report this evening.
Thank you very much. We lost our existing shuttle service, the airport door-to-door shuttle service, last March. We got our 30-day notice in February. The door-to-door shuttle service is used widely by a lot of the citizens who visit the airport, and it is a convenience that the airport significantly needs and would like to keep for our customers. Subsequently, we put out a request for proposal. It was posted on our webpage as well as mailed out to existing taxi cab and shuttle operators in the area. We received 3 responses for the request for proposals. The Ground Transportation Subcommittee met and we reviewed the responses. You can see on the report, on the second page of the report, there is a short matrix that highlights what was requested in the proposals, as well as the areas that were addressed. And just to highlight a few for you, the proposal from Roadrunner that we are recommending to the Commission was the only firm that was responsive to the RFP in all the areas. And you can see very quickly that they've been operating vans for several years. They've got 17 vans, especially with ADA. The other proposers had none and just had proposed that should they get the contract, they would then go out and purchase them. The other proposals did not have any actual shuttle experience. Their experience was as cab drivers and operators, and the shuttle service that the successful proposer, Roadrunner, has been in the business for 17 years. They did provide the financial information that we needed. They do hold the appropriate PUC permit and the appropriate driver's licenses, Class B specifically. They provided us with a rate card that was reasonable and within industry standards. And the Ground Transportation Subcommittee, I believe all the members were in agreement that this was the best proposal submitted. They looked like a solid firm that's been doing business for a long time, and we look forward to getting some very good service from them. And if any of the subcommittee members might want to comment, if they have any comments about the...
Question. Oops, go.
I will concur in the fact that, first off, we were impressed with their service record, with their abilities, and with their meeting of the criteria for the request for proposal. Secondly, we were impressed with the fact that they have the necessary equipment and the 24-hour, which we thought was most important, the 24-hour dispatch. And so we felt that the area that serves the airport and the proximity would be best served, and we were all in agreement.
Yes. One other item that was very important is with the number of vans they have a backup. So if a van were to go out of service, they could dispatch additional vehicles up here, which was a good benefit.
Can someone explain how it works?
The shuttle service itself?
Yeah.
The shuttle operator is here if you'd like to comment a little bit on the actual operation.
Please.
Go ahead and introduce yourself first, please.
Hi, my name is Charles Sandlin. I'm the operations manager for Roadrunner Shuttle. We provide door-to-door airport shuttle service, which we pick you up from your doorstep and drop you off right in front of the terminal, along with other passengers along the way. You have the opportunity to share the cost. Instead of for a direct trip, like a taxi trip, you can share the cost and break it down so it's more economical of a service to get you to and from the airport directly from your home. We're going to be servicing from our service area currently is all of Southern California, but for Santa Barbara, probably from Camarillo all the way to San Luis Obispo. We're going to be providing service at reasonable rates. We also provide town car limousine services and bus services as well, so we can pretty much accommodate any size group that comes into the Santa Barbara airport and provide the best possible service in the area. We're trying to find a location around the airport right now. We can rent a facility so we can have a person, actually Paul, who we plan on having the general manager of the Santa Barbara operations be stationed at.
Thank you.
Jim?
I can only repeat what I was saying about the response to the RFP was right down the line, everything we could wish for, especially having, which I'm always worried about, vans that are handicapped and having those available, plus having a public utility license,
Yes.
which none of the others had, which to me means you are, it's like a bona fide provider. And I thank you for forwarding and being part of us now.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to serve the Santa Barbara clients as well.
Yeah, I would concur with everything that's already been said. It was a very responsive proposal.
One question is, when will the service commence?
We're looking at full operation starting September 1st. We will be and have been servicing the Santa Barbara Airport for the past 17 years, coming from our Camarillo facility. We're still assembling our team and should have everything together by September 1st to be able to have vehicles stationed on site for on-call service, which would be walk-up passengers that don't have reservations can meet our vehicles in the designated parking areas and get a economical ride downtown or wherever they need in Santa Barbara County.
And I also believe I remember from the subcommittee that you were going to have an advertising campaign as well.
Yes, we do have an advertising campaign set up for $100,000 over the next year to be able to get the note out to the community that we are providing local service. For the past 17 years, we've been providing service, but if somebody wanted a ride from Santa Barbara to Santa Barbara, it costs them over $60. Now from Santa Barbara to the college, we're going to be providing services for $15, or downtown will be $25. And I had attached the rate card to our proposal. You guys probably saw the type of rates we'll be offering to the local services.
Any further questions, discussion? Do we have a motion to recommend that the city authorize the director to execute a lease or a month-to-month permit?
I'll move for approval.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is this approved to execute a month-to-month permit with Roadrunner?
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Wishing you
Thank
great
you.
success.
It's an important key piece to
Yes.
overall ground transportation solution.
I agree.
Item 11, emergency plan.
I wanted to just give you a very short briefing tonight on some pre-planning that the County of Santa Barbara, City of Goleta, and the Santa Barbara Airport, City of Santa Barbara, are doing right now in terms of planning for potential winter flooding and in light of the Gap Fire. The Gap Fire burned over 9,500 acres in the Goleta foothills, and it affected 6 watersheds. 4 of those watersheds drain onto the airport. And it's no surprise to any of you that we have had flooding in the past. I have a photo of 1969 where the terminal looks like it's in the middle of a lake. And in 1995 we were flooded twice, and in 1998 we were flooded, which every time that we've flooded, we do have airport closures, either because of water going up onto the runway, or water and sediment, which then requires that we need to clean it up. About half of the fire was on U.S. Forest Service land, and about half of the fire was on non-federal land, or what the Forest Service calls private property. After a significant fire, the Forest Service, recognizing that sometimes wildfires cause damage to people or land downstream after the fire in terms of winter rains, loss of vegetation exposes the soil to erosion, and then water runoff may increase and cause flooding and sediments to move downstream and damage homes and other community assets. And they're particularly concerned when a burn area is above a developed urban community. The Forest Service prepares an evaluation after or at the very end of the fire of the burned area, and they have prescribed treatments based on what evaluation that they've done, and they call it a burn area emergency rehabilitation report, or BEAR report. So if you hear that term, that's what it means. And the purpose is to protect land quickly and effectively. The Forest Service uses the BEAR report to prioritize and fund treatments on their land, not on private land or non-federal land. And that's an important distinction to make. But the BEAR report is valuable to downstream property owners because the Forest Service professionals, their geologists, hydrologists, are the people doing the evaluation of the burn area, and a lot of really important information comes out of that report in terms of what the community downstream can expect during winter storms. The BEAR team for this fire determined that 76% of the area that they analyzed will produce high runoff and sediment yield. And based on historical data and modeling, that we can expect 15 to 20 time increase over baseline in sediment production, particularly in the next rainy season. Their modeling showed that what would be a 5-year rain event will behave like a 10-year rain event, and a 10-year like a 25-year. So if we do have those kinds of significant rain events this winter, while the burn area vegetation hasn't started to grow back, most certainly we will have flooding, and it will be a lot more significant than we experienced in 1995. The county has taken the lead in coordinating local agencies such as the City of Goleta and City of Santa Barbara with the airport. And they've developed an emergency plan and are preparing funding requests for from federal and state agencies to help fund some of the treatments that they are proposing. Flood Control is also currently working on their normal treatment plan, which is dredging of the desilting basins here on the airport. You see big piles of dirt down by Los Carneros and Hollister, and also doing upstream creek debris removal. The City of Goleta and the airport are also developing emergency plans for advanced protective measures, as well as cleanup measures for after a rainy event in case flooding occurs. The county and the city are also developing plans for informing and preparing their residents about potential flooding this winter and what the residents can do to help prepare themselves. There's a meeting on September 11th at 6 p.m. at San Marcos High School that county supervisors are hosting to inform the public, and there will be a lot of other public information efforts that follow with the county and city of Goleta after that meeting, probably more neighborhood meetings to prepare affected neighborhoods or potentially affected neighborhoods. The county has requested the city of Goleta and the airport to share in the cost of hydromulching the burned areas, which are most likely to cause flooding and sediment movement downstream. The hydromulching is the prescribed treatment that the Forest Service is recommending and will be using on their own property for the burned areas. And again, that's where the Bayer report kind of is helpful to downstream communities. The airport share would be about $85,000. Since the airport is subject to FAA restrictions on our expenditure of funds and our revenues off airport property, we have made a request to the FAA to authorize us or allow us to use these funds for the hydromulching effort with the justification that it will help as a preventative measure flooding that could potentially close the airport for longer periods than during a normal flooding event. Our request is now at FAA headquarters in Washington, D.C., and I'm awaiting word from them. I communicated with the FAA regional office in L.A. today, and he acknowledged that it was in Washington. So we will keep on it, and one way or the other, the city and or the airport will join in the effort with the county in terms of this protective measure. Other measures that the airport is taking is we're cleaning our drainage channels and storm drains. We're getting our sandbagging kind of operation ready so that we can sandbag buildings that we know in advance, buildings that we know flood during just even normal rain events, just to their kind of location on the airport. We're also identifying alternate locations for long-term parking overflow. With an impending flood, we don't want to put more cars in the drive-in. We have talked to some property owners around the airport and are working on arrangements with them to park cars long-term in their parking lots. We're also getting pre-established purchase orders with companies, contractors for debris and sediment removal. And this is kind of an after-the-fact thing, but so that we're ready, we're set and ready to go and can clean up the airport in quickly after a flooding event. We're also developing tenant information dissemination so that we keep our tenants informed about impending storms so that they can make decisions on on terms of aviation tenants, what they want to do with their aircraft. Do they want to remove them from the airport? Or is there a flood watch or a flood warning? Just so that our tenants are aware of what the weather information is and what the potential for flooding might be at any one time. Our City Public Works Department is also inspecting the bridges that are on airport property to make sure that they're clear underneath. And one of the issues is having debris pile up underneath bridges. The new bridge that we built on San Pedro Creek, just a little south of Ampersand, spans the creek, so we don't have, what do you call it?
Pillars?
Pillars in the creek, which the old bridge, that's where the debris used to pile up. So I think we're, all the agencies are kind of on hyper alert in terms of preparing for what could happen this winter, and hopefully those preparations will ward off something really happening, but at least we'll be as ready as we can be. And I think it's important, step that Goleta and the county are taking in terms of trying to make the residents prepared as well, because the county and the city of Goleta can't do it all. Residents need to prepare for themselves. So that's kind of an update of where we are. Tomorrow I'm meeting with representatives from the county and city of Goleta and city of Santa Barbara and continuing our planning efforts and talking about public information and getting the word out. So that's where we are at this point.
Could you explain what hydromulching is?
I believe, maybe Tracy can explain it more, but where they spray on a mulching mixture, and it helps hold the soil in place. And I believe actually that there's seeds in it where vegetation will grow through. One of the things I thought was interesting is the Forest Service, I think it was their hydrologist, said what she did is she goes out and looks at the soil in the burned area and drops water on it. And if it stays on top, that's not necessarily a good thing, because usually water will percolate down. But it didn't stay on there for a really long time, which was a good thing. Also, the vegetation roots seem to be intact and, for the most part, in reasonable condition. So that was a good thing also in terms of vegetation regrowth. So there's some good things going for us. Things that aren't going for us, it's very steep terrain, very rugged, hard to get into. So there are some kind of issues with the area, but
But the hydromulching will stick to the steep areas, and they can apply it in wide areas.
So they do that by aircraft?
I believe so.
I think so, yeah.
Hold on.
No, it's usually a truck. It's a slurry of all kinds of things, including something glue-like, and you've seen it on hillsides. It's usually green, which is amusing, but very effective for a while.
Thank you.
At least it'll slow down the runoff a little.
Theoretically.
yeah,
It's unfortunate we're at the bottom of the hill.
I know, it is.
We have to accommodate everybody's runoff,
We have 4 creeks that converge on the airport.
and it all right here.
Yep.
And as I remember the last flood where all those trees and everything came down the creek and the other side, it all blocked up there and then spilled over into here, and we still got flooded. So I hope they're doing a little tree clearing as well, because that's what really came down and blocked up a lot of the under the bridges and everything, that debris.
Right. One of the things that the county is doing, I can't remember the exact proper term for it, but it's kind of a debris,
Catch basin.
it's sort of like a debris catch, I don't know if it's a basin, but it's like railings or whatever to catch the debris coming down from the hillside during a rain event. Probably the hillside version of the debris sediment basins for creeks. So they are planning to install, or maybe as we speak, installing those in strategic places as well. Mm-hmm. And they are doing creek clearing up into the watershed, because to me that's also important, because not only will we get all the sediment and debris from the fire, but you get the normal stuff, the boxes, the junk that people throw in creeks coming down as well. And we experienced that in the 1995 flood. So,
Excuse me, for the information for the public, for instance, the long-term parking, how will that be changed? Is that something that would be a temporary thing if we were expecting rain, or would that be for the entire rain season? How exactly does that work?
no, that would be if we see that there's a storm event coming that could cause flooding, and we'll have to kind of play it by ear. But we'll have these preset locations, and we'll get word out to the public in terms of radio announcements, our website, and so forth, to let them know where the alternative parking is.
So if there was somebody already parked in the one area,
But then we would need to relocate that car.
okay.
Right.
That was where I was coming from, because
Yes.
it is a long-term lot, so I was thinking,
Right.
okay.
In the 1995 flood, that the long-term overflow lot flooded, and we towed, I think it was 25 cars. Of course, at that point, it wasn't ahead of the fact. It was after the area was already flooded. And some of the cars did have damage. They had water up well past their doors. So we would remove the cars, relocate the cars to safer ground. Hopefully, in time.
Surprise. Thank you.
All right. Well, it sounds like a lot of planning going into it already. That's great. Any other questions? Item 12, the director's report.
Okay, I just have a few things that I wanted to point out, and as always, if there are other things in the report that you'd like me to comment on, I'd be happy to. July, our passenger count was up 10.7% compared to July of 2007. I looked at if ExpressJet hadn't been here, we would have had a 1.2% increase. So that they really did help boost our passenger use. We are talking to another airline to see if we can replace that Sacramento service, and hopefully I'll know within the next week, because they're setting their fall schedules right now, and so we should know, and hopefully we'll be successful. So keep your fingers crossed on that one. We're also working on the public information program for the terminal project as we get into construction. This fall, we'll start construction on relocating the short-term parking into long-term, reconfiguring the terminal loop road so that we can fence off the area for construction of the new building. And that construction of the building should start in the spring. So things will start happening, so it'll be important to keep the public informed as to what the changes are, where they need to go for whatever service they're looking for. Our long-term lot number 2 will be open all the time, not just as under overflow conditions. So that may actually make it a little easier in terms of passengers not having to guess whether we're full over at the terminal and then drive back over here. And then we'll have, of course, the free shuttle that goes back and forth. We used the long-term, or the drive-in long-term lot number 2 completely when we did the long-term parking lot remodel in the early 1990s. And some passengers actually liked being over here because the shuttle just dropped them off at the front door of the terminal, and they kind of liked that as opposed to having to walk all the way through the long-term lot. So anyway, but our focus is really to keep the public informed and to be clear about what the changes are and where people need to go for whatever, whether they're renting a car or parking a car or picking up someone. So that will be our challenge, and we're gearing up for it. We're also have entered into a contract for a new website development to kind of upgrade our website to offer more features where people would be able to go on our website and then go through a booking like Travelocity or one of those types of booking online companies, book their tickets, do a lot more interactive things on our website, add a lot more information about airport statistics, beef up the general aviation part of our website, provide a lot more information in that area. Right now, when you look at our website, it looks like basically all you can find is airline information on there. And the idea is to, while that might be a big emphasis, but to have other areas such as general aviation be easily accessed. Also, for our terminal construction, we're going to have a construction cam and be able to watch construction on, our website as it goes on. So they're going this week to kind of look at camera locations and all that kind of thing. So smile when you're out there. The idea is not to spy on people, but it's to be a fun thing and let people watch the construction as it happens. Let's see. Also, next month on our agenda, we will have a report on the self-serve fuel facility request for proposal process and a recommendation from staff on how to proceed from this point on. So I wanted to let you know that is also coming up. And I think, we're getting also, in terms of the situation with the SkyCap service going away August 31st, of course, we're getting a lot of inquiries from the public concern and are trying to answer those to the questions the best we can. But I do want to make the point that I don't think the news articles did, is that I did sit down with Mr. Adrianson, and we talked about different options for how the service might continue. And none of the options really worked. I mean, some of them had to do with, we suggested, well, how about charging a baggage charge for a SkyCap baggage charge? And he said, well, I don't have any capability for cash handling in terms of the other SkyCaps that work for him and accountability of the cash. And if they charge a bag fee, then people are less likely to tip. And even without a bag fee, some people don't tip. I was a little surprised. I guess I shouldn't have been. And then if the airlines are now charging a baggage fee, are people going to be willing to pay a SkyCap baggage fee, a tip, and the airline baggage fee? And I think that's probably unlikely. But really the most critical part is that the airline, United in this case, provided their computer, and it's not just the hardware computer, it's the software programs that allowed the SkyCaps to check you in at the curb, give you your boarding pass, put your bag identification on your baggage, and then they take it into the TSA for inspection and so forth. Well, without that computer, basically all the SkyCaps would be doing is taking your bag from the curb, walking it in while you walk with them to the airline line, dropping your bag, and that's it. Without the computers, they cannot do curbside check-in. And really that is a big benefit to having SkyCap service, is being able to check in at the curb and not have to deal with the chaos inside the terminal with the lines and so forth. So whether they charged a bag fee, whether we paid them to do the service, none of it would be effective without the airline computer system. It's not the fact that it's a desktop computer. That's not the point. Also, United or SkyWest was paying about $54,000 a year for SkyCap service. Now, I don't know how much American Eagle was paying when they were doing it a few years ago. So that would have been on top of the $54,000. As Mr. Adrianson and I discussed, he doesn't pay the SkyCaps what the city considers a living wage. And with the living wage ordinance, if he contracted with the city, he would have to pay that, which would up the cost quite a bit from the $54,000. But again, really the issue is the ability to do curbside check-in, and without the airline providing their computer systems and software systems, it's not possible to offer that. So anyway, I just wanted to make those points clear because as any news article, you don't really get into the nitty-gritty of it, and I wanted to let let you know, number one, that we did meet with them and discuss options, that none of the options either met Mr. Adrianson's needs or in terms of the airport, the cost issue was greatly more than $54,000. And that loss of the airline computers really took away the primary reason he's at the curb. The SkyWest manager told me that they did an audit and about 3 to 6% of their passengers use SkyCap services. So most of the passengers, are taking their bags inside, and I'm sure that to some degree played into SkyWest's decision to withdraw SkyCap services. They did it at 63 other airports. When I recently flew into Washington Dulles Airport for American, there was no SkyCap service at the curb. I like using it just as much as anybody else. So I think that's going to be the trend, that we're going to see that kind of service disappearing even at some of the larger airports, which is unfortunate, but it's the way of the industry at this point. So I just wanted to let you know that. Thank you. And that concludes my report.
I know I had one on the public information plan. One of the options I mentioned at least a year or so ago was I think they're called traveler information radio or traveler information service, low-powered radios, tuned to whatever 1610 to get information. Has any more work been done looking into?
I did look into it at the time, and I can't remember what I felt or found out, but we will look into it again because there can't be enough ways to inform people. So if it's possible and affordable, I think that would be a good service to offer.
Right. Anything else? That brings us to the end of our agenda. Let's adjourn.